Y aquí estamos, aquí estamos con el doctor Weiss. Muchos, muchas vidas para un solo hombre. Yo tengo que preguntarle cuántas vidas es usted, cuántas vidas, hasta llegar a yo tener frente a mí a este hombre que puede contestarme.
Well, I think that humans have many, many lifetimes, hundreds or perhaps even thousands. But as far as my recollecting through regression my own past lives, I've only found 7 or 8. Perhaps I've had a lot more, but these are the only ones that I remember. I find that in my research, in my work, it's important for people to know they have more than one chance to get it right. More than one chance. And that's why we live again and again, to learn our lessons here.
El hombre entre la vida y la muerte, me imagino que debe transitar espacios vacíos. Hay un salto de una vida a otra, eso digo, es una escala superior, el hombre cada vez que va a otra vida asciende, es mejor.
See, I think it's important to say that we are really all energy. That we have, this is our basic nature. And I think that you can characterize the main energy of our substance as love or God or whatever you want to name this powerful energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we die, our consciousness leaves the body. And it's also important for me to say, I'm just speaking from my own research with more than 3,500 patients in my office over the past 21 years. That when we die, consciousness goes on. There's a great deal of evidence that this is the case. It can communicate back, but we keep learning on the other side. We keep learning. It's not just empty space. It's dimensions, and we keep progressing there. Hopefully then when we come back here into physical bodies, we've learned some lessons about love, nonviolence, compassion, charity, etc. We know the lessons, but we're very stubborn.
Yo tengo que preguntarle sobre dimensiones de conciencia.
Sí. I find that we have many more than 5 senses. People think here we have just these 5 senses. But I've done research with consciousness existing outside of the body, studying psychics and mediums scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
People, and I believe we all can do this with practice, who know things at a distance or through intuition. We have more than 5 senses, more than 6 or 7. Physicists now, physicists in laboratories, in universities, are studying areas like string theory, multidimensional universes, consciousness existing beyond time and space.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting because we find out there's so much more to us than we think. We're not just our bodies sitting here, but energies crossing the space, and mostly we're not aware of these interactions. But as the mind opens up and as our scientific tools become better, we'll learn more and more about our real nature.
Cuando usted se refiere a almas gemelas, ¿de qué está hablando?
I find that many of us have lived in prior lifetimes with the same people, the same souls, and that we find them again in this lifetime. It's not always romantic, as you see in the movies. Almas gemelas means people that we've lived in other lifetimes with, and now you may find them as a romantic person, but also perhaps a parent, or a child, or a grandparent, or a good friend. These are people that we somehow recognize. They may seem familiar to us, often at first glance. Frequently I've had a mother, when she's brought her baby in the hospital after just delivering the baby, giving birth, and the mother says to the baby, "Oh, it's you again." It's very interesting.
A veces uno, sobre todo en la llegada de los niños, de la nueva vida, uno sabe que ese niño viene de muy lejos, más de 9 meses, de muy lejos. ¿Vendrán de muy lejos a traernos un mensaje?
I think sometimes this is the case, that this is not the only place, the earth. There are many dimensions where there are
Claro.
souls. I think we all have souls, and souls exist in all of the universe. Maybe our bodies change.
Eso.
So many of the babies do bring special messages or teaching. I should add that one of the findings from my research, and it checks with others who do this research, is that people who die violently or as children often reincarnate much more quickly. They come back more quickly into another human body, into another baby's body. And so I'm thinking that, because I've been trying to make sense in my own way of September 11th and the terrorism, that the 6,000 people perhaps killed in the World Trade Center,
Interesante.
maybe they're also coming back quickly because they died so quickly. Come back quickly to teach us about nonviolence, about the terrible nature of hatred and violence and these things that cause so much pain in the world.
Mm.
We don't have to wait for all of them to come back, because they'll come back as babies and it will take time to grow. But maybe these 6,000 people will be dispersed all around the world to teach about love and not about, and to teach the terrible effects of violence and hatred.
Usted ha puesto el símbolo de las torres y habló del odio humano, de la irracionalidad humana. Digo, porque las religiones no están ausentes en esta locura del 11 de septiembre. ¿Qué nos enseñan las religiones judeocristianas o las religiones tan antiguas como ellas? Y digo, el budismo, y digo, el islamismo. ¿Qué dicen sobre otras vidas? ¿Qué nos están explicando?
My interest in religions really began after I discovered Catherine the Woman in my first book, and I began doing research in past lives and reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't believe in any of this. I was a scientist, very skeptical, chairman of the psychiatry department at a huge medical center. And so I had a great deal of responsibility there, but I wasn't exposed to the religious beliefs.
Okay.
My approach has been from the clinical and the scientific. But I had to study the religions because these are, as you say, not absent from the field. And I found evidence for belief in reincarnation in all of the great religions. Clearly in Hinduism and Buddhism, the belief is still overt. It never went away, and Hindus and Buddhists...
Hablan de karma.
See, and about karma. Karma is universal, by the way. A universal belief is in Christianity and Judaism also.
Mm-hmm.
It's the concept that what you plant, that's what you reap.
Así es.
What you put out comes back to you. It's not just an Eastern concept. In the back of my book, Messages from the Masters, the last one, I made 2 chapters about religion because I thought this was very, very important. And I compared religions word for word, what they said about karma, about love, about past lives, and it's there. There's a similarity.
Son idénticos.
Yes, not about past lives, but about love, about violence, lo mismo. Love, violence, compassion, treating your neighbor like yourself, non-violence. But in terms of reincarnation, in the Muslim religion, the Sufis, a very mystical branch of Islam, have always believed in reincarnation and write about it, like the poet Rumi and others. In the Jewish religion, belief in reincarnation has been there, present for many, many centuries, thousands of years. It's called Gilgul HaNefesh, the reincarnation of souls.
Sí. Sí.
And even in the Jewish religion, there are many different types of reincarnation. One type is the reincarnation of the perfected individual who comes back voluntarily to help humankind. The word in Buddhism or Hinduism is bodhisattva. It's the identical concept again. In Christianity, which came from Judaism 2,000 years ago, the Essene community at that time believed in reincarnation. So I'm sure that Jesus did, and others coming from the Essene community. And there's great evidence that there was a belief in reincarnation for about 600 years, until the Romans. It started with the Emperor Constantine, but ended a few hundred years later, they edited out the references to reincarnation because the Romans wanted control. Politically, they were very much concerned with controlling the population. I'm okay with that. That's politics. I'm not a politician, but I understand. So they took out the references. But these were 600 years after Jesus. And so I think the evidence is very strong that in Christianity, reincarnation is a fundamental belief. In Judaism, I've read so much, and I've heard from rabbis that you cannot understand Judaism without understanding reincarnation. And so the belief is there in all the religions. And even though my approach is from the clinical.
Hay algo curioso, ¿no? Porque hay algunas religiones, como la religión cristiana, que dice, y Dios se hizo carne en el hombre. El hombre siempre intentó no solo llegar a Dios, sino ser Dios. Entonces uno se puede llegar a preguntar si en esa búsqueda de vidas anteriores el hombre desde su omnipotencia no trata de ser Dios.
Yes, and I think this is a very important concept also. But I don't think we have to really try to become God, because I think that God is in each one of us. This is my belief. I don't think anymore that God is some old man sitting on a cloud. With a beard or no. I think God is an energy in every cell of our being. That we're of the same energy. And our task is to become more God-like, more loving, more compassionate, wiser. This is always our challenge, to become our real nature. So desafío. We're all on the same journey, the spiritual journey.
La vida. En realidad, y eso le quiero preguntar al doctor Brian Weiss sobre la vida. ¿Hay una sola vida que se repite en diferentes generaciones? ¿O es una vida multiplicada, mejorada a través de la conciencia?
I think that we all have souls. This is our real nature. There is a Christian mystic, Teilhard Desjardins is his name. He put this very beautifully. He said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience here, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Así es.
I like that very much, because it captures the essence of our being.
Somos espíritus, es decir, somos una multitud de espíritus, más que de cuerpos y envases.
Sí, sí. Claro. And all souls are connected, so that what one does affects every other soul. We're connected through energy, through consciousness, and we're not so separate as it appears that we are. And this is why it's very important to see everybody as a brother or sister. We're all souls. We're all connected. We're all of the same substance.
Iguales.
Yes, all equal. And we're all on the same path.
Somos la misma sustancia. Esa es la palabra.
Sí, exactamente. We are on the same journey. We have to help each other, because we won't be finished with the journey until the very last person completes it also. It's a journey of wisdom, a journey to becoming godlike, as you said.
A ver, esta será una pregunta sobre el viaje. Cuando nos decidimos a viajar, seguramente nos fijamos metas y por supuesto tenemos un punto de partida. Entonces la pregunta sería, ¿cuál es el punto de partida de dónde venimos y a dónde vamos? A ver.
Again, I'm just talking from my own experiences in my
Sí, naturalmente.
I think souls are ageless and timeless. That they existed before this planet. They existed before there were humans.
Antes.
Before. And come here, because this is a very difficult but very good school, our planet. It's a school where we have relationships, emotions, pain. We can learn many things here, but it's a difficult school. And souls have to complete their lessons. It's not always even. For example, you may have mastered the lessons of nonviolence, but you still have to learn about patience or compassion or charity.
Claro.
These things.
Así es.
I think we're always making progress, but it may look as if we are not, because you master one, but you may start at the beginning of the next lesson. So it's like completing grades in school. But eventually the momentum is up, and then we graduate and don't have to come back here anymore, or we come back voluntarily to help other souls.
¿Cuántas almas, desde cuántas almas tiene usted? ¿Cuántas vidas anteriores ha tenido usted? ¿Con quién estoy yo? ¿Frente a quién estoy? Estoy simplemente con un médico que un día estudió psiquiatría, que tuvo un cargo muy importante en el Hospital Montesión, que tuvo una paciente que se llamó Catherine, que aprendió la vida con un ser bueno. ¿Con quién estoy? A ver.
Yes, this is a very good question too. The answer is a bit profound, because in one way you are with yourself. If you look into my eyes.
Sí, claro. Yeah. Usted sabe que antes de comenzar esta grabación, yo decía a todo nuestro equipo, a lo mejor yo me encuentro conmigo y usted se encuentra conmigo y somos iguales. A lo mejor venimos del mismo lado, que en realidad venimos y somos la misma sustancia. ¿Cómo fue la experiencia de Catherine para aquellos que no tienen la información?
Yes, of course. This was the very first patient where I experienced past lives. As I said, I did not believe in this, but it really was an opinion. I actually had never read or studied, so I realized that wasn't a very scientific attitude. It was only opinion. Many skeptics, when I debate them, often offer opinions, but they've never read or researched, so it's not an informed opinion. Catherine went back into past lives when I was using hypnosis, trying to go back into her childhood. I told her one day, go back to where your symptoms first began. I thought she would go to childhood. But her subconscious mind, taking that question literally, went back about 4,000 years into an ancient Near Eastern lifetime. I thought this was imagination or fantasy. But immediately her symptoms started to clear up. She knew facts and details that she had no knowledge of consciously. And this was very strange to me, because I knew that imagination could not heal a person the way she was healing without any medication. And so I started this with another patient and another and another. And now 3,500 patients later, I have a great deal of information about this field. And beyond reincarnation, some of my patients are able to get messages from the other dimension, from perhaps a mother or grandmother who had died, and they get information back, not just general information, but sometimes very specific, like where the jewelry is hidden, where a will might be buried or hidden, the combination to a safe, very specific information coming to them in a dream or from the other side, when they're in a relaxed state. So now I study consciousness, I study souls, I study life, I study death, and reincarnation is just a piece of that for me now. But Catherine, that was my door. She was my opening into this entire other world.
¿Y logró que ella pueda contar estas historias a través de la hipnosis?
Yes, it's important to understand also, I think, what hypnosis is and what it's not, because we've seen in the movies.
Es lo que conocemos a través del estudio de Freud.
Freud used hypnosis. And for several years. Mine is a little bit different, because I'm using it, but eliciting a lot of information from the patient while they're under hypnosis. Hypnosis is not sleep. Hypnosis is a state of focused, relaxed concentration. We're all hypnotized every day. When you're reading a book and you don't hear traffic noises or other noises, that is hypnosis. It's concentration. So it's not mysterious, it's not strange, you never lose control.
¿Utiliza usted algún tipo de alucinógenos, algún tipo de estimulantes para que el paciente pueda trasladarse? No, no.
No, that's solo mi voz. Solo mi voz. I do it that way, they relax.
Sí, sí.
In the relaxed state, memories are enhanced. The memory is better.
Ujú.
And I don't use anything artificial, no chemicals, no drugs, nothing. Don't hit them over the head. I just speak and talk them into the very relaxed state, concentrated state. It's entirely normal, this state. There's no danger, you can never get stuck, you never give up control, but the memory is enhanced. People who meditate, very similar. They go within, they quiet their mind, and that's like hypnosis.
¿Se puede hablar de psicología espiritual?
We must have a psychic connection. Because it's like when we talked about the same soul sitting here.
Sí.
And I think it is somewhat an illusion to think that people are so separate. I call my work spiritual psychotherapy, almost the same word. And I think it is, because it's therapy beyond life and death. It's therapy that incorporates spiritual matters, such as consciousness, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences. It's therapy that incorporates the importance of love and letting go of fears. It's scientific, but it's also spiritual and also intuitive. And it really works. It's very effective.
Yo digo, algunos deben preguntarse, cada uno tiene su vida, su historia, sus relaciones. Habitualmente la gente que va a consultorios y a consultas quiere resolver el hoy. Salud, dinero, amor, felicidad o lo que pueda. Pero usted le cuenta cosas de vidas anteriores. Y alguien le puede decir, bueno, pero yo necesito solucionar mi problema hoy, mi angustia, mi ansiedad, mi inconsciente. ¿Usted qué le contesta?
Sí, sí. There's a direct connection. Many problems today, symptoms, come from past lifetimes. I may see a person with a fear of water or a fear of small places, claustrophobia. And these are actual cases. For example, a person who died of suffocation or in a small place in a past life, now with claustrophobia. So phobias, anxiety, depression, psychosomatic disorders, and some physical disorders as well, are very responsive. They heal when the person remembers the causes in the past life. So there's a very direct effect on being happier and getting rid of symptoms in this life. I would like to add there's a further benefit, and that is when you find that you've died in the past life, and it's not painful, it doesn't hurt to remember this, you realize that you are immortal, you are eternal. We don't have to fear death so much in this life. And so people change beyond getting rid of symptoms. Their values change. They know that when we die, we do not take our houses with us or our bank accounts or our cars. We take our deeds. How did we act? What did we learn? So they lose their fear of death. Their values become better. And they're getting rid of symptoms also. So I think there's a very direct benefit on this life. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be looking at it quite so carefully as a doctor.
Hay recuerdos cuando estábamos en el vientre de madre y si tenemos algunos recuerdos de nuestro propio funeral. ¿Sí?
Yes, both, all the time.
Todo el tiempo.
Yes, I found many times people remembering memories from 1 day old, from birth, and from in utero state. Many cases. Sometimes people describe conversations that their mother and father had. It's the same concept as consciousness, awareness, existing outside of the body. It's also very frequent for the fetus, the baby in the utero. They frequently feel the feelings of their mother, how she feels, anxiety, joy, fear, happiness. So I think it's important for mothers and for fathers to let the baby know, welcome, you're coming into a loving situation.
Claro.
The baby is aware of it. People frequently have described to me their funeral. By the way, with babies, we often get validation from their parents that the memories are correct. It happens a lot. The parent says, yes, that did happen. We lived in this apartment, but we moved before the birth. And the person described the whole apartment during the regression, remembering the in utero state. People do seem to float above their bodies at death, look at the scene. They may attend their funerals. They may hear the eulogy. So people have to be careful of what they say.
Digo, cuando uno muere, uno está entre dos vidas. Hay un vacío o una línea entre dos vidas cuando este cuerpo físico se termina.
We are between lives because we are not our physical bodies. We are the spirit, the consciousness. We float out, we leave it, we learn on the other side, and then if we need to come back, we come back into a baby's body. The issue of time is complicated. Here on this earth, we feel physicality. We think of time as linear, flowing from past to present to future. But it's really more complicated, as Einstein and other physicists have proven. So there probably is no time on the other side, only here.
Uno no puede comprender ese tiempo y espacio que decía Einstein, no. En esta teoría.
It's a very difficult concept for us. It seems to go against common sense. But already physicists have discovered particles that travel faster than the speed of light. And they find out that the particles go backwards in time. And it's amazing. It's as if, wow, our world is upside down. But yet we function at two levels. For example, Horacio, as I talk with you here, I sit in this chair and I trust the chair to support my weight. But the scientist in me knows that this chair is made of atoms and molecules and energy. And probably a physicist could build a bomb or something, or produce enough energy to provide the world with light and heat and electricity if they could harness the energy of all the atoms in this chair. So the chair is solid, and yet it's not. It's energy. And that's like us. We exist in many different dimensions at the same time. And here's the exciting part of this work. We're not just here. We're on the other side already. You don't have to die to get there.
Bueno, uno puede valorar los otros lados a partir del pensamiento. Si estamos aquí y cualquiera de los dos cierra los ojos, usted puede estar pensando en su casa, que está muy lejos de aquí, y yo puedo imaginar su casa, aunque no lo conozco. Y los dos estamos viajando a un punto. Yo no lo conozco y usted el reconocimiento. Digo, en este mundo, ¿solo hay almas? ¿O las almas solo viven en este mundo? ¿O hay otros mundos muy parecidos o diferentes?
I think there are many worlds. There are many dimensions. Muchos mundos, muchas dimensiones. Pero aquí, this is just one world. Souls live in many worlds. I think this question also brings up a point that skeptics often bring up. That you brought up through your question, which is a very good question, and that is, how do the numbers fit? If reincarnation is real, and there are more physical bodies here than ever before on the planet, where do the souls come from? Well, the answer is what we just talked about. There are souls in many dimensions. Many more souls than there are just in this one planet, this one world.
Hay más almas que cuerpos.
More souls than bodies. Verdad, siempre. More souls than bodies. And so this is just one of many places where there are souls. There are souls in all the dimensions, in all of the universes. We're just the tiniest piece of it. But I think that souls are the same everywhere. Bodies may be different.
Yo digo, ¿y quién elige que el alma encuentre su cuerpo? o que encuentre un cuerpo. ¿Quién lo decide eso? El alma, ¿cómo coincide entre alma y cuerpo?
I believe, and again through my research, that these decisions are made before we were born. There is a kind of connection of spiritual beings or masters, or whatever name we want to put on, angels, guides, God, higher power, but there seems to be like a committee of wise beings. And us, our soul, is part of this. And then we plan the life. What kind of lessons we're going to learn. We choose our parents, the situations into which we are born, because it improves the opportunities for learning here. We have a lesson plan. I also think that some cases of déjà vu, that feeling of familiarity, as if you've been in a place before, comes from this planning.
Yeah.
When you look over your life before you're born and you say, aha, I'm going to be here and do this and that. And when we encounter those points, that's a kind of déjà vu feeling. I also believe that we have free will. So we meet our destiny points, but our reactions to these things, to the people we meet, to our experiences, that's the free will part.
Da la sensación como si fuera un ADN espiritual.
Yes, exactly right. We have two lines of evolution here. The physical, the bodies, and we've been evolving as Darwin and others have described, and the spiritual. Our souls don't evolve in the same way, but they meet in the body, and we have these two lines of evolution. Not everything is karma. You may have to be in the body to a certain parent because that's your lesson plan, but maybe you've inherited diabetes or something because of that. That's not karma. It's just, okay, that's the body that you will have in this life.
Estaba pensando, usted habla de seres espirituales, ángeles, maestros, dioses. Cada uno de nosotros lleva el ADN de padres biológicos, papá, mamá, abuelo, abuela. ¿Quién conformará nuestro ADN espiritual? ¿Quién será el Padre Creador? ¿Y con quién conjugará para nosotros sobrellevar esa herencia espiritual, ¿no?
The concept that we seem to use, and that I find in my work all the time, is God. Is God as a wisdom, an intelligence, an energy, a love that's so much more profound and so much deeper than we can put into words. We can't, with our brains, understand how everything works here. We can describe certain phenomena. We can describe, yes, we choose our bodies, we learn this, but why this was started, why we came here at all, why do souls have to go through this kind of evolution, this, nobody knows this. But we do know that we are here in this school, and we're supposed to learn lessons of love, compassion, etc. So when we attribute human qualities to God, we limit ourselves and we limit God. And this is because of our mind. We don't know how much beyond human comprehension God can be. So sometimes a person will come to me, for example, and say, well, I really want to pray to God for this or for that, but I feel that other people have more needs or more important needs, and I don't want to interfere with God if they need God more. And I say to them, God doesn't have ears. Human beings have ears. Perhaps God can listen to every soul in all of the universes all at the same time and have room left over for whatever else God needs to do. We always limit God because we attribute human qualities to God. And that's something that has done...
Cualidades humanas. Está muy bien.
Sí, exactamente. Also, I think there can only be one God. There's not a God for one people or one religion or one country or one race. It flies against reason. God has created everything.
Bueno, pero alguien puede preguntarle si hay un solo Dios, no para unos ni para otros, no para pobres ni para ricos, no para olvidados o recordados. Alguien puede decir, entonces, ¿por qué hay pobres y ricos? ¿Por qué hay olvidados y recordados? ¿Por qué hay millones de hombres, mujeres y niños en una frontera esperando que alguien desde el cielo le dé de comer? Y en cambio alguien, a mí a lo mejor a esta hora terminó sándwich. Entonces, ¿por qué hay un chiquito que nace con felicidad y a la misma hora hay un chiquito que se muere? ¿Cuál sería la explicación entonces?
Excellent question. I've thought about this a lot. And I work with, in my work with the patients in deeper levels, in my own meditation, I realize that we're blaming God for things that people have done. Again, I don't know why God, yes, has created this world
que
at
hacen
all.
los hombres, naturalmente.
But God didn't create hunger. God didn't create violence. People do these things.
Claro.
We have enough food on this planet
Coincido plenamente.
to make this a paradise.
Coincido plenamente.
Sí. So,
en el planeta, aquellos que tienen la profunda fe, Dios o esa energía superior dotó a esa tierra para que nadie pase hambre, pero el hombre en su egoísmo no la distribuye.
Sí, exactamente. It's humans who create the problems here, not God. So I think there's a saying.
Los hombres, además, con ese plagio, con esa intención y esa ambición de ser Dios, en vez de distribuir el amor, distribuye el egoísmo. Entonces mi hermano no es más mi hermano, es mi enemigo.
Sí. And we have to learn not to do that, because we're making this planet a difficult place to live. We create our own problems here. Pollution, greed, egos, violence. This is not God, though. So I don't think, well, I should say there's a beautiful saying that God allows the sun to shine on the prisons as well as the churches. And the rain falls on the flowers and the weeds. God doesn't discriminate. The sun is for everybody. The rain is for everybody. Food is for everybody. Love is for everybody. It's us, the people. We have messed things up here. But we can fix it. We can fix it if we have the intention to love each other more.
Borges, un escritor argentino, había en alguno de sus cuentos, habría imaginado un hombre que se preguntaba si él era el sueño de alguien que otro soñaba, y así sucesivamente. ¿Cuánto tendrá que ver el sueño con esto de las vidas pasadas y el reencuentro con nuestras vidas pasadas a partir del sueño?
Many people do remember their past lives in their dreams. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes when you dream of yourself in an older time, a different place, it's not just a Freudian distortion or a metaphor. Sometimes it's actually a past life memory that's emerging into the dream. It's a very good question that Borges asked, because it's like this chair. Is it solid or is it energy? We exist in so many different dimensions at the same time that it could be that this is the most dreamlike. Another way that I would say it is that this is not really our home, Earth. This is strange for us. Our home is on the other side. That's the reality. And sometimes when you dream, you visit there. People actually visit there. But this seems so real to us. This illusion is so strong because our body feels so solid and real. But it's not really our essence. Our essence is the soul.
Cuando nosotros soñamos, nos desprendemos del cuerpo físico e iniciamos un viaje con el alma.
I think sometimes this does happen, yes. The part that separates I'm very interested in, because this is again the soul, the consciousness. And sometimes people come back from these kinds of traveling dreams with information that they had to travel to some place to know. like a physical description of a particular city or building or something like that, or a house, or a conversation. And so, but not all dreams are like that. I should say, though, as the doctor and me, I don't want the viewers to become alarmed. This is completely safe. Nothing bad can happen to you. You always come back to your body. There's nothing to worry about.
Le quiero preguntar, ¿por qué cuando alguien habla de vidas pasadas, siempre eligen personajes clásicos de la historia? Mujeres que quieren ser Cleopatra, o dicen varones que fueron Napoleón o Washington. ¿Por qué buscan o tipifican con personalidades de la historia? En vez de decir, bueno, fui a lo mejor un labrador en las montañas.
Almost all the time in my work, I find mundane, ordinary lifetimes. I don't find famous people. There are two factors. One is the metaphor. Take Napoleon, as you mentioned. Perhaps someone needs power, and so it's not really a past life, but a metaphor that comes to them of power.
Necesita poder.
Necesita. Pero there's another point, and that's the distortion. For example, a patient I had, he thought he was Napoleon in his past life. And I very, very rarely find famous people. But when we went into the regression in detail, even more detail, we found that he was a corporal in Napoleon's army. He was there, but a corporal. Not a lieutenant, not a captain, not a general, not Napoleon, just a soldier. But in his mind, because he could see that if there was some distortion, and he switched, and he thought he was Napoleon. No, just a soldier. And
hay una película de Woody Allen que es Un día en la vida de Boris Grushenko, que él también quiso ser, pero un simple soldado.
Sí. And Woody Allen said one time, he said, I don't believe in an afterlife, but I am bringing a change in underwear. He's not taking any chances.
Es muy bueno. ¿Qué cosa los escépticos? ¿Qué le ocurre cuando frente a usted tiene un escéptico?
I enjoy talking with skeptical people. I was completely skeptical myself before I began my work. If it's a good skeptic, that's even better. Once I debated Carl Sagan, the astronomer. Very intelligent.
A veces a la cabeza.
Sí. And he forgot what skeptic really means in the Greek sense. Skeptic means someone who knows the subject matter. They have read it, studied it, but they offer alternate explanations for the phenomena, for the event. Perhaps it's this, perhaps it's that. Plato believed in past lives, but Aristotle didn't.
Sí.
And so they had debate. That's a good skeptic. But Carl Sagan, in our debate, he didn't read my books, any of them. He didn't prepare. He didn't read other books. He didn't try to have a regression himself. So he came, but totally unprepared. He thought he would just intellectually challenge me.
Oponerse, resistir frente a la negativa permanente.
Sí. And I started to tell him about the data I've collected, the research that's been going on, and he was shocked. And then I asked him, Carl, how are your patients doing? Because this is a very effective therapy. And he answered me, well, I'm an astronomer. I don't have any patients. And I said to him, I know that. That's why you shouldn't be sitting here debating me. And to his credit, he apologized. He said, I'm not prepared. I really didn't think it would be this serious. And I apologize. I shouldn't be here debating you.
¿Qué le pasa con sus pares, con otros psiquiatras cuando debaten estos temas? ¿Por dónde coinciden y por dónde pasa la diferencia? Aquellos que hacen un psicoanálisis tradicional y hacen un viaje por el inconsciente.
I've been doing this work for 21 years now, and it's been getting better each year. More and more people know. To a psychoanalyst, I say, you don't have to believe it, because anything that comes into the mind is important. I'm just expanding the arena of psychoanalysis. Instead of stopping at early childhood, we go back even further. And then we talk about these very unusual experiences that I've seen in my patients over the years. People speaking foreign languages that they've never learned. Xenoglossia, this is called. People reading concentration camp numbers from their arms. In a past life, they may only be 30 or 40 years old now. They read the numbers. They're also describing stores and families and names and towns in Europe. And when they go to check it out, or I do, or I have a researcher in Sweden actually who checks these things out for me and for himself, we find that these are accurate memories. These people, with corresponding to the numbers, they did exist, and they died in the Holocaust. So when I point this out to psychiatrists and others, we get into very interesting discussions if they're intelligent, if they don't have a closed mind. Because Carl Jung believed in reincarnation. Carl Jung talked about the collective unconscious, a knowledge of all things. And so the roots of this work in psychiatry actually run very deep, all the way back to Jung. And he and Freud discussed these concepts.
Cuando se habla sociológicamente de masas, se habla del inconsciente colectivo. Un partido de fútbol, manifestaciones políticas, pero no se habla de la espiritualidad colectiva. Uno puede decir, bueno, una mañana frente a la plaza de San Pedro, una invocación, hay una energía importante. Río Ganges, energía importante. Pero sin el ropaje de la religión, ¿el hombre puede tener una comunión espiritual?
I have two thoughts to this wonderful question. One is, there's a difference between religion and spirituality.
Está bien.
Sometimes religions focus so much on the rituals and these kinds of things, but they forget the bigger picture, the higher meaning. It's more important, for example, to be loving and nonviolent than it is to do a certain ritual, whatever the religion is. The actions are more important than this little thing. But if the rituals help a person reach a deeper level, if they help him to go into a state of spirituality, then the rituals are very useful and important. But sometimes also you see, even outside of religion, a kind of spirituality or consciousness advancing. Even today, before we started this interview, I was watching the BBC, because so much is happening in the world today, and it's just incredible how many things are going on. And I see that the Irish Republican Army they're turning in their weapons. It's like a spiritual consciousness has been reached where they're saying terrorism is not the way. We want to end this.
Naturalmente.
And of course I hope that this lasts. But I am not just amazed, but I am so happy. It's as if an entire, and this is a large group of people, has reached a higher level of consciousness. And if this kind of development continues, where we can end violence, or in as much as we can, where we can end terrorism as much as we can, then we can really change the world and focus on the real issues: poverty, education, healthcare, and making these available to every human being on the planet. Food, housing. Then I think, as a collective consciousness, we will reach a higher level, perhaps, than we have ever attained here in this planet.
Ha sido un placer dialogar con usted, País. Ha sido un
Sí.
placer hablar con usted.
También para mí. También
Muchas
para
gracias. Sabemos que usted está regresando a la Argentina en los próximos meses. Creo que seguramente será la ciudad de Mar del Plata, que es una ciudad atlántica para nuestros amigos de Latinoamérica, y será también tan bienvenido como en estos días. Buena vida para usted.
mí. Muchas gracias.
Nos estamos viendo.